This time on Whatever We Want, we talk about
Doctor Strange. Major, huge, big spoilers ahead. There are time codes down in the description if you would like to jump around. We talk everything from the Doctor Strange casting and who almost played him, along with visual effects struggles in the timeline, and No Way Home theories and ties in from Doctor Strange and more. Enjoy! How are you doing, my friend?
doing pretty good, dude.
These are still kind of backlogged, so there's not any like current news kind of. Actually, when this goes out, Spider-Man No Way Home will come out like next week, so we'll be talking about that eventually, hopefully. Don't know exactly when, because I'll be traveling across the country. I think I'm in Arizona right now ish. I don't know, who knows where I'm at. Hopefully I've made it there. I don't know. Anyways, so happy holidays. Also, we're in our holiday, like, Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Got Christmas sweaters on still.
Fell down. Yeah,
Daniel's
all festive.
got his this time. I've got a Millennium Falcon one on for our audio listeners. Yeah, woo, festive. Also, oh yeah, also our like giveaway that has been over a while, but as of recording this, it like just ended. So thank you.
Yeah,
again,
just ended. So thanks everyone
in the process of reaching
subscribed.
out to those people.
Yeah.
And I already gave one the money. Yeah. All right. That's enough up top. You ready to jump into things? Introduction.
Yes.
You may want us to talk about this or that, but we don't care. We're going to talk about whatever we want. Blam. Welcome back to our other podcast where we, Jake and Dale, two definitely handsome gentlemen, talk about movies, TV shows, giving behind-the-scenes insights, filmmaking techniques, all that jazz, and more. Talk about Doctor Strange this week.
I had a feeling there I like threw you off because I didn't say hit me with it, and you.
I did. I
sat
like
there for a
paused,
second.
and as I was saying it, I was like, "How am I going to edit this?" Because I usually like put that little. That's like the cadence. So like, I'll have to. Maybe I'll just use your.
I could say it right now.
I'm not gonna do it. All right. Maybe I'll put that in there. We'll see. Anyways, I want to hit up with our little a review of Sick Works, ARoSW sound clip.
Did you ever see Return of the Jedi?
Thank you, Ross. All right. So, Doctor Strange, 2016. Let's jump into it. What do you think overall?
Doctor Strange is actually one of my favorite Marvel movies. I always forget about it. It's like a sleeper. Yeah.
It is a sleeper. I agree. I think I enjoyed it looking back this time more than when it originally came out.
Really?
Yeah, I appreciate it so much more. And I think part of that's just because of like all the multiverse stuff coming out. I think it's really interesting actually when Doctor Strange, just the character, like he seems to be like a few steps ahead of everyone. Like he knows about multiverse and all that stuff, all magic stuff before the Marvel characters do. We see that especially in Infinity War and Endgame. Mm-hmm. And also his movie was like that in the whole scope of the MCU. Like his movie was like multiverse, like introducing us to that. And now it's been a few years and like the rest of the MCU is like catching up to that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also weird to think about, like, now that we've seen Loki, just thinking about the actual like time scale of it and like because the multiverse has been a thing for the entirety of the MCU, but because we were introduced to it with Loki, where it was like, oh,
we were technically introduced with Doctor Strange, but the rest of the MCU is being introduced, and the next phase.
Yeah, it's like Loki's technically there at the origin of MCU's multiverse, which
right.
is like weird to think about, because for him he's at the beginning of it, but Doctor Strange and everyone else, like, it already exists on like most realities.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird concept to think of.
So, a couple things up top. We had a budget of, it was really weird. The budget said 165 million to around 236 million. Like it was a range. Most places said it was 165 million. I don't know if the range like includes like marketing and stuff. What'd you say? Sorry.
I just said it's weird because it's not like a specific number. Like,
yeah, so I don't know. They usually don't disclose the information. It's usually just like an educated guess. But either way, it grossed 677 million, which isn't like the biggest Marvel movie, but still pretty good. And I think that's what Marvel does better than a lot of other studios. If a film does not make $1 billion, they don't write it off as a failure. You know? I think it's ridiculous that like I see so many articles and like it's like DC's Batman vs Superman only made like $700 million. The sequel was canceled. You know? I'm like, what?
Yeah, like geez.
I would take one of those millions, please, and happily live on my days. But yeah, and the director was Scott Derrickson. He was actually approached to do Doctor Strange 2, but Marvel and obviously we know that Sam Raimi is doing Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
But so apparently there was like creative differences. Like Scott Derrickson wanted to create a different story than Marvel really wanted, and there wasn't really compromise on either side, so they ended up splitting ways.
That's sad. Because I feel like this movie is like, it's really well done, but at the same time, I know Sam's going to he's going to do a good job. Like, it's Sam.
Oh, yeah. So it was really cool though. In the director's commentary, I watched that, but Scott Derrickson said that to get the job, he created, the scene when Doctor Strange is like fighting the guy in astral form when he's having surgery done on him, like in the hospital. He like had a vision for that scene, and he spent like a lot of his own money before he got the job just to like kind of create a version of that scene and then pitch it to Marvel. And that was one of the things that helped him along. He had like 8 meetings, he said, and that helped him ultimately get the job of directing Doctor Strange. So I thought that was really cool.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah, that dedication.
Like going that extra step.
It's about drive. Anyways.
I'm not going to continue that. Read too many of those last time. But no, it's crazy to think about. And it's like you said, it's nice to see, like, because that, I don't know why, but I guess that feeling or that scene did have like a special feeling to it in the film.
Yeah.
Like it had its very strong moment to it. And I feel like there's some essence of that, like just cinematography that was also carried throughout the rest. So I guess that makes sense. I can kind of see that in the way it worked out.
I really liked just in that scene, we'll get there, but just really quickly, like I liked when it was switching between like what we could see in astral form plane
versus like reality.
Versus reality, like the lights would go like dark, and then you could see what was lighting up the room was the astral projections.
Well, I like the original shot where they open it up, where they're on you're like have the close up on the table, and then like it pans out to where you get like the whole room, and then it flips, and then you get Strange and the other guy like across each other on the table. I'm like, you're setting up the shot, but then you flip your literal dimension. It's just crazy to think about.
That was really cool. Shot. Anyways, back to the tank. So I really wonder, because like I haven't really heard anything about like Scott Derrickson since Doctor Strange. I really wonder what makes a difference between like these directors that we know from MCU and the ones that we like don't ever like hear of again. Like we all know like our James Gunn, our Russo brothers, our Taika Waititi's, but like Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson, like you don't really hear much about him. I wonder like what separates them. Like do they just like is it like they have such an impact on the MCU that like you remember them? Because like I'm trying to like make that distinction.
I feel like a lot of it's also coordination, like what you were saying before, to where like
they work better with the studio, maybe. So the studio is more willing to like put their face on things.
Exactly. So like especially if it's like a production where it does like super well, like for example the End Games or the
End Games.
Yeah. It's like World War and then World War II.
Yeah.
The End Games.
And the Guardians of the Galaxy,
I mean? Like,
yeah. Thor Ragnarok pretty much revived Thor. Yeah. Anyways, so Benedict Cumberbatch, what do you think of his portrayal performance overall?
Amazing portrayal.
Yeah. He was actually Sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go. You go.
I was just saying, he was actually the first choice they had for Doctor Strange, Doctor Stephen Strange, and they couldn't get him actually. Like he was approached and they talked about the movie and they were like, "Yes, let's go. We really like you." And then they like locked everything in, but he was filming like a version of Hamlet or in a theater production of Hamlet or something like that, and like was not going to be done until like 6 months after they wanted to start shooting. And so the studio actually went and looked at other people to play Doctor Strange. They looked at like Joaquin Phoenix, Jared Leto. So we got some Jokers up in here. Jake Gyllenhaal, and also Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Lots of Batman people. Daniel Radcliffe, I think, was on that list. And like a bunch of other people. But like they were just like
Harry Potter is Doctor Strange. It's different. Like
that'd be so cool. Like he has the magical experience. Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense because I like Benedict Cumberbatch, but basically they were like, we really want Benedict Cumberbatch, so they pushed production 6 months. They pushed the release like 6 months later than it was supposed to be. So they actually had a shorter post-production period. So like this was like one of the shortest post-production periods they had for an MCU film,
which is
insane. Because it had the most visual effects at that time for all Marvel movies. I remember that fact coming out. That is wild, and the VFX like look good.
It's like
amazing. Black Panther third act, no offense, but Yeah.
Yeah, but no, like I know what you mean. Like literally, like world bending. Like it's crazy.
So I thought that was.
So how much time did they have then? Well, like so it was pushed back 6 months.
But like they didn't like they had a longer pre-production and then they pushed back the release of the film. So like I don't know exactly the dates that work out, but either way it was shorter. Oh, wait, also this was the first MCU movie with the new intro.
Yes, that's right. I almost forgot to mention that too.
Forgot because I like watched it. I was like, oh yeah, the MCU intro, and then I was like, wait, Civil War was the old intro. Woo, we're back. So that was neat.
You know, I noticed that too. I was like, oh wait, yeah.
What do you think on Dormammu and Caecilius as the villains?
See, that's the thing. I like villains that have.
That was a sentence. I like villains. The end.
No, that have
Daniel, there's some red flags that have come up from you this episode. You're talking about murdering people with a keyboard, and now you're like, I identify with villains. Period. Moving on.
Okay, but no. Like villains who have like a righteous purpose, right?
Glorious purpose.
Or glorious
like
purpose.
Loki. Yeah.
But no, like Caecilius, he wants to save Earth and save reality, right?
Yeah, in his untwisted way. Just going at it really weirdly.
I feel like they could have been on the handle of like him losing his family more, but at the same time that's also a big trope that's used a lot.
I completely agree though. Like I completely agree.
I feel like they were on a good road there.
His motivation was great. They could have definitely like they lent into his like feeling of being betrayed by the Ancient One, but I think they should have been like, I'm upset that I'm betrayed because of this promise of like my family, whatever, like you were gonna help me with that kind of thing being lost. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like the motivation was there. I think it could have been a little better explained that way, but it was still good. I thought it was still good. Yeah. And I think I appreciated it more this time that I was reading into it for this podcast, you know? Yeah.
And Dormammu, I love not only the way that they did the Dark Dimension, a lot of references to like Kirby's original artwork.
Yeah.
But also just in his character style in general, because the way he's done in the comics, he's usually just like a head on fire or something like that. But like, still like a figure and stuff, but like.
Well, did you know what I mean? Benedict Cumberbatch actually did the motion capture for Dormammu?
Yeah.
So that I think was really cool, and it's honestly like it kind of works like it's almost because this is a creature that doesn't usually project himself in like a figure in a form. It would make sense that like Dormammu's going to use it as like a reflection of the thing, the person he's speaking to kind of not relate to him more, but to have the conversation be better understood, I guess.
Instead of just like a voice in your head.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. The guy who played Caecilius is Mads Mikkelsen. He's also in like Rogue One. He's like they said a lot of praise about him in the behind the scenes. Like he was like I think 49-ish, maybe around 50, like when they were filming this, and he did like a lot of his own stunts. They said like a lot of the wire work, a lot of the kung fu, and he was like all game for it. Like they said when he was getting pitched this, like the director came up to him and was like talking about like the story and the character, and he agreed. It was like the character seemed really interesting, and then Mads Mikkelsen was like, oh yeah, like I'm interested in this, and then the director Scott Derrickson went on and was like, yeah, like it's gonna be like a lot of fighting and action, and Mads Mikkelsen was like, oh my gosh, like I'm signed up, like kung fu and stuff, and he was like, yeah, and Mads Mikkelsen was like, I've always wanted to do a kung fu movie. You should have started with that. I'm in. So that was pretty neat.
Say I want to beat some people up, please.
Yeah. I also just like how they open the movie in like that fight in the mirror dimension, and just like introducing us to the visual language and tone of this movie, just dropping us right into it to show us like this is nothing like you've ever seen before in the MCU.
I like the way, again, like Yelena would not be happy, but like the posingness of it. Actually,
but they have to like, though for like the technical magician stuff. They actually worked really hard, really strict to like have perfect lines of their hands, so the visual effects like lined up. They work with like special. Yeah,
I can only imagine because you have to. It's like hitting your marks, but in 3D space. Yeah, and then having then for post to then track that in that. That's challenging.
Sorry, you were saying it reminded you of something.
No, it just reminded me of like kind of like anime style or like Final Fantasy-esque kind of like, especially when the Ancient One like landed for the first time and it was like the hood's down and just went, shh, you know, like.
Yeah. I'm wondering though, like, do you think we'll see the mirror dimension in No Way Home, or like I'm really interested to see if any of this visual language will return in No Way Home, especially with if Spidey and Doctor Strange are kind of going at it, you know?
That would be cool to see. I feel like it might show up in like the... Actually, yeah, no, like where they're doing the fight with like the multiple train thing. Like that might be in the mirror dimension, honestly. But I don't think it's going to be incorporated with the final fight.
Right. What if all the Spider-Men get there and then he just does this thing? He's like, psh, psh, mirror dimension, and like traps all the villains in. They're like, they can't do anything. Honestly, why doesn't he do that more? What the heck? That feels like OP.
I feel like the reason he's not doing it like, or is going to do it in the final fight there is because all the like multiverse is like collapsing.
So the mirror dimension will just like do nothing. The mirror will shatter.
Exactly.
What if like the mirror dimension is like branches between? So like if he does that and like it allows like the Spider-Man to come in like as like a bridge or something.
Okay, no, because here's how things work, right? You have universes, and then each universe has its separate dimensions.
Yeah, but if the multiverses are breaking, like what if the mirror dimension of two universes like somehow collide or something? Daniel,
okay,
all of it is on the table.
That could work. That could
moving on.
But no, I was actually thinking about that later on when we were getting like from this original fight, and later on, like when they're going through the mirror dimension again.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about, but it makes sense.
Oh, you're talking about the movie again. Okay. I thought you were talking about No Way Home again. Sorry. Movie.
No,
okay.
no, I'm talking about the movie. Sorry. Like, if the mirror dimension is based off of, like, photonic relationships to the world. So, like, it doesn't mess with reality, but messes with how the imprint of photons have of reality. So, you don't... You know what I mean? That also makes sense for, like... You see things, like, literally, like, flipped on top of each other, and then, like... Those other shots where like things are like all bouncing around because it all depends on where your photons are like at that certain spot. Does that make sense?
I believe you. Yes,
I just feel like that'd be a cool way to explain that. Like that, I feel like that'd be cool.
Anyways, that has been Science with Daniel. Now let's go back to the science of the. I want to talk about like the medical stuff that we see in the beginning here, like the doctoring of Doctor Strange. I thought it was really really good. And like when they had the mask on, I was like, huh, I do that too.
Oh my god! I'm a doctor.
But it's really cool. They actually had like They had like a brain surgeon on set that was like making sure everything was as realistic as possible in like the setting of like a neurosurgery. Because the director said he wanted like that realism because like even though 99% of the audience wouldn't know, that 1% would know, and also when something is like authentic and real, that vibe like comes across even to the audience if they don't know it, like subconsciously. So I thought that was really nice attention to detail.
I also think it's a smart way to do things too with a movie like this because it grounds you, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The more authentic you get with like the reality or the reality you think when it breaks later on, that makes it so much more impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, speaking of just like the doctors they had on set, they also they said a lot of the extras that were walking around the backgrounds like as nurses were actual nurses. So if they had any questions about like how to like carry something properly or like what to do in the situation, they could literally just ask the nurses. So pretty nifty.
I have some opinions on that, but okay.
What?
No, nurses know what they're doing, but it just made me think of when I broke my leg. And I had to like tell them how to pick up my leg.
Okay, that's the too gross. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
We also had introduction of Dr. Christine Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams. Mm-hmm. Apparently, John Favreau approached her to play Pepper in the original Iron Man. Yeah, I'm kind of glad it worked out this way. I mean, looking back, 2020 hindsight, but yeah,
I could see it. Honestly, I could have seen it going either way, but I feel like it. Yeah, it was good.
Also, props to just the actors that had to like learn about like neurosurgery and just being a doctor. Like Benedict Cumberbatch had to study like a lot. He said to like
have like correct terminology and how to like portray right. Yeah.
It's also just interesting. Speaking of Christine, like I know we talked about this in What If, but it reminded me of What If when she died all the time, and just how absolute points I guess are different in different universes. Like in this universe, it was his hands that went all wonky.
That were sacrificed. Yeah.
Instead of Christine going all wonky, going all dead. Yeah.
That's not right, Jake.
Yeah.
Christine going all wonky, and then I just picture the freaking scene from What If. Oh, yeah. That's dirty.
There, speaking of dirty, it's actually a decent segue. So people might be. We just talked about like the realism of like the doctor scenes or whatever. There was one shot when they were getting the bullet out of the guy's head when they didn't have masks on, and then the MRI machine comes in and put on masks. And there was a lot of criticism that, excuse me, they didn't have masks on during this part of the surgery. Well, because that surgery was so urgent, and in a real situation like that, that was what would happen. Like they'd rush in, prep everything, and then as someone's wheeling in the MRI machine to do the actual extraction, then they put on the mask. So that was actually accurate, and people thought that was like a mistake. So nifty. Also, this, like you were saying, this grounds us, but it also establishes Strange's character in the hospital, that he's just arrogant and full of himself. He's very similar to Tony Stark, but less
in a different practice.
Charisma almost.
Oh yeah, a lot less charisma. Like he's just straight up like dick.
It's a fine line because you want to create a character we want to see change, but yeah, that's it. We don't want us to create someone we hate so much that we don't care if they like turn their lives around, kind of thing. And they were walking that line.
Yeah, but no, I feel like they did a good job with that. And the thing was, because they made him so arrogant in the way that they did, when he came around, and especially when he was like apologizing and realizing the errors in his ways, it made it much more sincere. It made it much more personal. And come on, we all like to see a good arc like that. Like, come on.
Yeah. It's also really interesting right before like his accident happens, when he puts on that like super fancy watch. My not super fancy watch. It says February 2nd, which is Groundhog Day, which like in the movie just repeats the same day over and over again, which is just interesting in What If he just repeated that event over and over again. So I thought that was cool. Yeah. Also, there's sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to talk about the phone call in the call.
Yeah, I was going to do that too.
Yeah, so you go.
All right, yeah. So also about that phone call, like in the car, Strange. It's just interesting. He's only choosing patients he knows he can save, like not even willing to try with the others.
Because he has a record.
But
yeah.
There's some theories that the guy that has like a spinal injury. There's a theory that's the guy from Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2.
Yep, that's what I was
like
thinking.
His
like spine went
snaps.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's also another one that said there's a theory that a woman, like something happened, and there's a theory that could be Miss America, which is a lesser known hero in the comics. Her name's Madeline Joyce, and she was like struck by lightning and like has schizophrenia, and that like gives her powers or something. I have no idea the backstory behind it, but there's like something that they said, like she's like 22 and like this happened, that they're like, oh, people were like, that could be Miss America. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Don't text and drive. Theme of the movie.
Yeah, don't.
That scene was brutal, though. They had to film that crash. They actually had to
they actually like drop a car. Like,
they
off
wrecked.
A cliff?
They had 8 Lamborghinis for that scene, which is crazy. And they also shot that whole sequence across 2 continents.
Jeez.
They had a real Lamborghini like spin out of control. And then in the shot when like Benedict Cumberbatch is like in the water, like upside down, after the incident happened, he's like on a giant rig that's like spinning, like getting submerged underwater, like of like a half cut open Lamborghini. Like it was wild. The behind the scenes stuff was pretty cool.
Jeez. So imagine this, right? Say you have like one Lamborghini left over. What do you do with it? Yeah, like who gets it? Or do you sell it? Or like does the director get it? Like
they probably sell it or like give it back or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that's why they have the price range, because they had the
it's all the Lamborghinis. The 136, the 237, whatever. Yeah. I do want to give props to Benedict Cumberbatch, like his shaky hands. He's so
that's something else I thought about too.
With
like
it.
Like imagine having to do that for every single shot that you have your hands in, and also probably shots where you don't even have your hands in, but like there's potential that they might be there.
I'm not even just talking about that, but also throughout Infinity War and Endgame, I still see him do that. And that is such good attention to detail and character attention. Like, thank you, good job. Yeah. Also,
which is also just nice to see for his character, because like he throughout the movie he's conflicted with going back to his normal life, or Sorcerer Supreming it up.
Yeah.
So like the temptation of wanting to fix his hands, like the fact that he doesn't.
It's a constant reminder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the cinematic parallels after the accident happens of Strange just doing everyday tasks. Like it shows the same like montage that we saw at the beginning of him getting like ready for like this event. Later, after like he recovers a little bit, like he's like his hands are shaking and he's like in a bathroom, is struggling to wash his hands, and like he like it's a much dirtier, grimier like sink compared to the first one. He's like having trouble shaving. His hair's all disheveled. It's like very similar, like same setups basically for the shots, but like much different tone. I thought it was really well done. It just shows like reflects his downward spiral into madness. Multiverse of madness. Yeah. I do like the character trait that Strange has the attitude of never giving up, because like even when like all hope seems lost, like for his hands, like a lot of people would have given up, like that he could fix his hands. He never gives up, which is what drives him to become like a sorcerer. But that is reflected in his. It was shown that's how he became a neurosurgeon, but it's also shown that's how he becomes like this great sorcerer so quickly. So I do admire that trait about him, and I think that was shown well in the film.
Something else that I also thought about just watching it throughout, and also now that we've seen like what happens afterwards and stuff, is thinking about this film from the Ancient One's perspective, right?
Yeah.
She's seen all the possibilities. She says it like in the future when she's like, about to die.
And also think about in Endgame when she says like Strange was supposed to be the best of us. So like she knows he is going to be a great sorcerer, which actually confused me a little bit, but I'll get to that. Sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, because like it's weird to think about that she knows what probabilities could happen. And at the same time, this also came to me like to think about like her death is also an absolute point, because she said that she kept on trying to see past it and stuff like that, which means she probably did something similar to what Strange did in What If, where she's like, okay, how can I survive this?
Right.
But at the end, she was always
right. Maybe that's why she knows about absolute points, because she explored all those possibilities.
Yep.
Beyond her death. That's really interesting, like, as another layer. But I was saying she like knows Strange is gonna be like this good sorcerer, like in the Sorcerer Supreme. Like she's seen that possibility in the future. So why does she turn him away at first? Is it? I feel like test. Yeah, I feel like it could be to prove again that he doesn't have that drive, that power, stays hungry, devours. But also it's also, I feel like, to throw maybe Mordo off her scent, that she can see the future and like has these mystic powers of like.
It could be that too.
From the dark dimension, so I thought that could be a possibility.
I mean, she could also be just thinking about other multiversal possibilities, because there's also a limit to how much you can also see in the future. So like,
true.
She could have also been thinking about, okay, what if? Because like I feel like she knew that this conflict was coming. Also, she knew it was happening because
she fought Caecilius like
a day
ago.
So she's running probabilities and trying to think about, okay, I can either risk this, because at the same time there could be another Dark Doctor Strange multiverse, like What If, right, that she saw.
True. Whereas it's just like trying to avoid that maybe or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, that's interesting. I want to go back. I want to talk about the stuff they shot in what is it? Kaltama. What the heck is the name of the place?
Katmala? Or no, Katamal?
No, hold on. Doctor Strange.
I know you're talking about, like when they
Kathmandu?
Yeah, Kathmandu.
Kathmandu? How do you pronounce that?
I'm pretty sure it's Kathmandu or Kathmandu.
All right, well, they shot the place in, I think it was Nepal. They had Kathmandu, the magic wizard place. So they shot that in Nepal, and they actually shot that part on film, but they shot the rest of it on digital, like the rest of the movie on digital, because they wanted to, like, they said, and there's a huge debate about film versus digital cameras, but that like film has this like warmth to it that it's tough to get in digital film when you're filming like digitally. So they wanted to show that in Nepal because it was just like an amazing experience and like vibe pretty much that they wanted to get across on screen. So I thought that was really cool. Also, they filmed in Nepal, and they scouted it and they thought this is like a beautiful place. And then after they scouted it, before they went to shoot there was actually like a horrible earthquake in Nepal, and they were like should we even film here? Like, is it going to be safe? And like, and a lot of the places they were going to even shoot at like were destroyed, and so they actually decided, Benedict Cumberbatch and the director Scott Derrickson actually talked. And they were like, this is all the reason to film here now, because there's a lot of beautiful places around it. There's a lot of rubble around, which like added to the environment a little bit, but also it helped Nepal's economy. Like, it provided so many jobs for those people. A lot of the extras were people that lost their jobs because of the earthquake. And also they were hoping, and I think it kind of did, like, seeing Nepal on film as this like mystic, amazing place to visit, they would hope after the film
tourism.
Release, would boost their tourism, which is a huge part of their economy. So I thought that was just amazing that they did that.
It's always nice to think about, or to see when like filmmakers or really anybody that think beyond their project, and also just think about the people. Like, that's always a good thing to see.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
There's also a deleted scene here right before he meets up with Mordo.
Doesn't he like help like a dog?
Yeah, he helps a dog like that's injured. He like splints his leg. And you actually see the dog running away in the shot right before he gets beat up by the guys.
I feel like it was a good choice to remove it, because
I agree.
Scene made him seem like he was more genuine and too nice,
and he
way
needs
too
to
early.
Change. Yes, I completely agree. That's exactly the note I had.
Click. But yeah, no, like, it was a good idea, but at the same time, it kind of fuddled up his arc. So it was better to have him still like grow the way he did.
But speaking of jerks, I feel like the Ancient One kind of comes off as a jerk in the beginning. He's like, I'm a doctor. She's like, Mr. Strange. He's like, doctor. And she's like, actually, no. And I'm like, what? He still has his PhD. He worked for that. What the heck? So I thought that was kind of a jerk move, but whatever.
At the same time, she's pushing his buttons on a reason, or like for a reason, you know? Like, She's trying to get him to get to a point to where he's able to. Yeah,
and also just
up.
Like, if she's like, oh, I'm sorry, like, doctor, his respect for her is going to decrease and his like ego is going to inflate again.
Exactly.
So he won't be as willing.
It's all about suppressing that ego.
Yeah. Speaking of suppressing the ego, we then get the acid trip of all the ego, the acid trip of all acid trips.
Imagine that you go to some random temple in
Nepal,
Kathmandu,
have some tea,
and then you just get launched into outer space.
I was in that tea. That's like the what's it called? The Stan Lee drinks in Ultron, the aged whatever.
Oh yeah,
whiskey
Excelsior. Yeah.
I really like though. Excuse me. What they do with the astral plane, and they do it every time. Pretty much, something magic happens that's like epic. Like, they film it in slow-mo, but they whip the camera back so fast that it looks like it's still moving fast, but the action, like the camera movement is happening fast, but the action of the scene is happening slow. And it like kind of transitions into that. And it's just like, the effect that happens is amazing, magical, astonishing, because you don't see that often. So I thought that was really cool.
Time is relative. Speed is relative. And they use that in a very good way here, like all throughout, like whether it be like what you said when they're transitioning in and out between reality to this like trippy wormhole stuff, to like even when he's being like all the transitions, honestly, when he's being pulled from literally like all the hands to then being launched to like his own eye, like what the heck, you know? There's a lot of layers, a lot of ogres and onions that went in.
A lot of layers just in that multiverse. They actually had a astrophysicist, Adam Frank. He worked on this to help develop the multiverse, and I don't know what work he did, but it seemed cool. So maybe that's why he's so scared of the multiverse in No Way Home. He's like, the multiverse is something we know frighteningly little about, because he just is recalling. He's like, I don't want all those hands to go on my hands again. Yeah. He's just like, never drinks tea again.
Now, do you think when he had like the little hands on hands, do you think they were like messed up versions of his hand? That would suck. That's just torture for him. He's like, I have no working hands, and then they're like, haha, look at all these working hands. On hands.
Yeah. Dang. It's also interesting, just the Asian descent of the Ancient One from the comics. They changed that, and a lot of people kind of like
we're kind of iffy
about
on that.
But in the comics, it was made in the 60s, and it was very kind of like a stereotype and a negative one. So they
wanted to change it up. They wanted to do something different, and to be
Tilda Swinton embodied that, and they wanted like a young presence. And Wong also, the character, was very much like a negative stereotype in the comics. He was like a butler, pretty much like sidekick, manservant to Doctor Strange, and they wanted to change that, flip it to that Wong is like this respected master who's actually like Strange's new teacher, pretty much, after the Ancient One bites the dust. Yeah.
What do you think of the relationship between Wong and Doctor Strange throughout the film?
I think it's really funny. I like seeing their like growth. Like, they don't start out enemies, but they don't start out liking each other really either. But I like that Wong comes around at the end and like laughs, and they still they're like, they're buddies, and like you can see that even in the No Way Home trailer. He's like, don't do that spell, and Shane's like, okay, Wong, like an old married couple almost.
I feel like a lot of that changed too. Like Wong like started to like him more later on, even after he told on him, I guess.
Yeah. He introduced him to Beyonce. How could you not like him?
Yeah, exactly. So like,
not the saving your life thing. Gave his life meaning. Beyonce.
Introducing him to Beyonce? Yeah, that's meaning. That is his life. Like, come on.
Exactly.
But no, I liked how that grew. I agree with that.
There's also a lot of gold nuggets of like wisdom in this. Like, at one point, the Ancient One says, "We never lose our demons. We only learn to live above them." And I was like, dang. That's deep.
Yeah. What did you think about when Doctor Strange started messing with the Time Stone? And there's something here I also want to ask you, but I want to see what you think first.
Okay, I really liked it. It's really interesting. They said that the way they did the shot, where it's like panning as he like goes both ways, is to reflect a timeline. And like it pans like a certain way when they're moving forward in time, and then back when he's moving back in time. And also, apples represent the forbidden fruit, and he's not really supposed to be doing this. So just so much symbolism. It's cool filmmaking.
The apple already had a bite out of it and was sitting on the table before he got there. Yeah, so I'm like,
did he just stole someone's apple? Maybe that's why Wong doesn't like him.
So I'm assuming he took a bite out of it beforehand, but again, I don't know. But also, what did you think of the glass like effect? Do you think that was like Wong and Mordo, or do you think that was like the TVA? Because I kind of felt like TVA energy, but like even before we had that, you know what I mean?
But what? Can you say that again? Wong and Mordo, like, before they come in, like with the glass thing coming. Oh.
Yeah, but it felt kind of TVA. Like it wasn't like established yet, but like
I feel like it's probably not. But I think it's just supposed to represent a rift. But maybe if he kept going, they would have branched, and I don't know though. It's interesting that you bring that up.
Because they started talking about branches and making a different timeline, and I'm like, well, that would technically make this Doctor Strange variant. I was thinking, like, if there's any time for him to become a variant, this would probably be it, because that's when he's manipulating with time most for the first time, you know?
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to briefly mention, I really like how they describe spellcasting in this movie. Like, it's harnessing energy, they say, from other dimensions of the multiverse. So does that like screw up the energy of that universe that they're taking the energy from? Because like, I've been pretty tired lately, so I'm just gonna blame it on a magician from another universe draining my energy.
Energy out of you.
Yeah. Why don't you come into work today? Sorry, Doctor Strange needs me.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's weird to think about, because there are gonna be like some universes that have like infinite energy, like the Dark Dimension, you know. So like, why don't we just use those as like power sources?
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe they choose what dimension to pull energy from?
Or maybe it's like more
per
efficient
spell
to do it
or
from
something.
Like per spell.
Yeah, maybe like beginners have to pull it from like a adjacent universe that they're like close to, but then like advanced ones can pull from like the Dark Dimension or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, they say from other dimensions, but I feel like they could also be drawing it from like the same like dimension. Because if you think about it, if you're able to have like portals like from A to B anywhere, right? That's like you're making a wormhole on a spot. But
yeah,
like imagine if you're able to like take the energy of like say a sun. So say you like use that. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about this with science again. Like imagine you use like a wormhole,
Star Killer base,
to steal. Yeah, it's like Star Killer to like absorb his sun, and then you're able to use that to do like your Eldritch magic to do the the stuff. And
exactly.
Then you're good.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But speaking of like the sling ring and the portals, I really like the training montages that we get in this movie. And actually, in like test audiences, they had like in the rough versions of the film, they had less training scenes, but the audiences just loved the training montages and training scenes, which is actually pretty like rare in a movie. So that was, I thought, interesting.
People usually just wanted to get right into the action.
Yeah, so they did reshoots and like included more training scenes. So that's pretty nifty.
I think it exposed the audience more to the world of like, because you gotta keep in mind, magic has not been covered yet in the MCU, or even in a lot of movies outside of like Harry Potter, like that were mainstream.
True.
You know what I mean? So doing it in this way, especially how they were,
it was a different take on magic. It was a different take to other movies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do you think of Stan?
Stan Lee's cameo? Yeah. So he's reading a book called The Doors of Perception, which like is cool because like the doors like magical doors, but it's apparently like a super like meta connection. I don't know exactly the details behind it, but there's a 60s group called The Doors, and in their one song they sing People Are Strange. Or I think it's the song is People Are Strange, and they sing like things seem this way as you are that way or something like that, or some like, and it's like things aren't always as they seem pretty much, which is basically like magicians and sorcerers magic. So I thought that was interesting. Stan Lee actually shot like 4 cameos in one day, on that one day apparently. And James Gunn actually shot that cameo for Doctor Strange here because he was they had Stan Lee for Guardians 2 filming that cameo, and then he also filmed Doctor Strange, and then also other films that weren't announced at the time, so they didn't announce that. One second. Mac is back. Is this what you want? Here you are on the podcast.
Hey,
what do you want to say to people? This is one of our last Mac times, actually.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
He just kissed me on the nose. For our last Mac time, almost. Thank you, Mac. Knock it out. Ow!
Did he claw you?
Ow. I don't know if you can see it. Anyways, back to the tank. Oh yeah, also the Ancient One, Morgan Freeman was apparently considered for the role.
I could see that,
tidbit.
Honestly. Yeah.
So, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything from the other stuff. Oh, also, when Mordo's doing that like fight scene, he says he is the staff of the Living Tribunal. I never caught that before.
I told you before that was a reference made in Doctor Strange.
I know, I wasn't.
When we were talking about,
I didn't know when it was happening though.
I always said that, and you would make this face. You're just like, okay.
Well,
you didn't remember it. I'm just like,
sorry.
It was there first, you know.
I'm sorry. Also, that actor for Mordo is a 5th degree black belt, so he's also got some kung fu genes.
So he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, you know. I like that. And I also like how they explained relics too, like how they're imbued with power because some magic's too powerful for a person to try to use. Which that makes you think, like, what about like more powerful beings, like say like Thanos, right? Do you think he has more of an aptitude to do magic then?
Maybe. I have no idea.
That's just something unique to think about.
Yeah. Speaking of magic, Doctor Strange gets his cape.
Yes.
What do you think of the Cloak of Levitation?
It's done amazingly. Not only the effects, but also I like the relationship that they made between.
And I feel like we don't see that anymore in the new movies. Like I feel like the cloak is very much its own character in this film, and in the other ones we don't really see that, which I think is kind of unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but at the same time I feel like it would be too much because like we only see Strange.
True.
And Thor when he's helping out, like them find Odin.
You know what I would have wanted to happen when he's doing like the whirlwind in Endgame, the cape just goes off and like grabs like one of the army people like by the neck and just like wrangles him around like he did in this one.
No, that would be so funny. Like imagine like forces start coming in on Doctor Strange.
Or just gets Thanos by the neck.
Well, no, in Endgame, didn't the cape like prevent the hand from closing? Didn't it do that? What am I thinking of that? I feel like I feel like there's something that Strange did. It was either like a spell he did
or Infinity Ward. It was Infinity Ward that happened, I'm pretty sure.
It might have been the bands of Sidorak that he used.
Anyways, yeah. Also the shot when after the Ancient One dies, I know we're jumping ahead, but when he's crying and like he's welling up with tears and the cape like wipes his tears away. That was Benedict Cumberbatch's idea on the day. Like that wasn't in the script, and that's an amazing moment. So, and it kind of relieves the sadness that just happened.
Yeah. So how did they shoot a shot like that? Like was the cape just fully CGI, including like what's past the shoulders?
Or
would they do like
they shot it with
up
the
to
cape?
The shoulders and then they probably shot it with the cape and then one without the cape and then
maybe. I have no idea, honestly. Also around whenever like the last shot was, they were filming at like near a comic shop, and on like the last day of filming, like Benedict Cumberbatch like walked into just a random comic shop like in New York with or wherever they were filming, just in full costume. Like a public comic shop, and like the director like filmed it on his phone. Like the footage is online of them walking around. It's just like, wow, that is wild to me. Times are changing.
Like that's something I would do, honestly. Like imagine if you get the role of Doctor Strange, like you're just in town. Why not hit up a comic shop? You know, like make some fans go crazy. And like that guy's like later on, the owner of the store, whoever was working there at the time, could be like, I met Doctor Strange,
yeah.
You know,
he'll never forget that.
Oh, dude, that'd be so great if you're an employee and you got that on like recording or something like that. You'd be like, give me a raise, you know?
Yeah, give me a raise. I think the owner was the guy he was talking to, and there wasn't another employee. But
darn.
Give me a raise, me. Oh, okay. So the mirror dimension fight happens and is visually like stunning. So many green screens. If you look at behind the scenes, there's all those like memes of Doctor Strange at water parks, like flailing around. Do you remember those? Those were so funny at the time. Apparently, Mads Mikkelsen actually like kind of struggled filming on green screen. He often got lost in what they were shooting because he wasn't like used to it too much, which I kind of felt bad for. But then the Ancient One like is in the process of dying.
Shows up. Oh,
she shows up, and then she like eats it.
What did you think of him stabbing through his own guy to get her?
I thought that was brutal, and I was like, shows he's a bad guy. Like, if you were on the fence, like, this guy has some good motivation. Well, then he stabbed his own person.
Also, what did you think of the duality? This is kind of jumping back a little bit, but because he says the line that Strange said earlier, like, insignificant dots in an infinite universe or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, he does say that? I didn't really notice.
Yeah, he says the line that Strange said when he was like still like skeptical and like still like full on arrogant and all that.
Sorry, I'm pushing Mac out of the way. Okay.
As he's trying to get him to understand his point of view.
Gotcha.
Like in the cage thing. So it's just I felt like it was a nice duality there because it gave the perspective of Strange trying to still live in his delusion of, you know, trying to go back to his normalcy.
Yeah.
But you know, he does the right thing. But yeah, so the Ancient One's dying. You want to talk about that?
I love the shot of when Strange
slowing down.
Well, when things are slowing down and they're in astral forms, but there's a moment in here that's just the turning point, and Strange realizes, and it's when he comes to understand that he is here for a bigger purpose, and he accepts that. Like, they've been talking like, you're going to be in this battle and there's this battle coming. He's like, I just want to fix my hands. And there's a moment where it switches, and literally like they're shooting everything like kind of like behind the 180 degree line, where like we're kind of behind them, and then they literally like switch it, and like the camera like whips around front after she says like, there's a moment where she says like, she just like, he realizes that he has a mission beyond himself, like it was never about you or something, and like it's a moment it like clicks for him, and the camera like whips around her astral form, and we see Strange like realize like and accept like, I'm here to be a sorcerer. And what's amazing is that because it's like astral form, it's like transparent, so when we cross her, we never lose sight of Strange's like reaction to it. So I thought that was just amazing.
That reminds me of another shot, actually, going back when he first gets the cape. Did you notice that the resolution changed?
For the cave?
The aspect ratio of the screen changed. It went from, I think most of the film
was watching on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
It's because I think part of that is if you're watching Disney Plus, they just released a bunch of IMAX things. So like sometimes some of the big action sequences, important moments, they show in IMAX resolution. They did that the same thing with Civil War.
Most of it was in IMAX resolution. And then when Strange came in, like when he got his like first grand shot, it went to just
widescreen.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, basically, yeah, H1 dies, and then we gear up for the third act final finale battle.
Yep.
I love this fight. It's so creative and so different than the like other Marvel movies. And they actually said it was kind of poking fun at like cliche Marvel movies. Like in Marvel movies, often third act is like destroying a city and like a big beam up in the sky. And in this one, they're literally reversing time and reconstructing a city, and then the thing in the sky like disappears. So
yeah,
I thought that was a really cool play on that. And it's just really creative, the visual effects of like a battle happening while things are happening in reverse. Like it's still dangerous, but I thought that was really cool.
I love the final spot of that fight to where like Mordo flings him into a freaking wall, and then the wall reconstructs. So then he's
that is amazing.
In the wall. Like that was awesome.
They had to use like motion controlled cameras and like multiple shots, and like the timing was very difficult to do all of it, but it looks amazing. I feel like because they had a longer pre-production, it probably helped them actually plan all these things out because they had to push it back for 6 months because of Benedict Cumberbatch. Mm-hmm. So that might have been a benefit for them.
A Benedict benefit.
Yeah. What if... this is horrible. What if when they're reversing time, like what if they pause, someone just gave birth, and then they reversed time?
Oh, God! Jeez.
And they have to give birth again. That would suck.
Yeah, that'd really suck. Well, what do you think the radius is of what he did? Do you think it affected like the whole universe with the time stone, or do you think he was just playing around with like Earth?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I feel like it probably was just been Earth.
Earth.
Because other things could still be going on, and like it's so quick that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, what if you're seeing like Guardians 2? We just see like something happens and then it reverses RAM. They're like, what the heck? And then we're just like, oh, Miss Doctor Strange was happening at that moment. That'd be interesting actually, because that would like pair things up with timing. I don't know. But yeah, so we get Dormammu. I've come to bargain. So many memes from that, which I loved. Yep. Very creative way that he overcomes the villain, and again shows that growth. Like he was so self-centered and selfish at first, and then this leads to him making the ultimate self-sacrifice at the end. He's literally willing to die, not just once, like but
an infinite number of times.
Eternity, yeah. So I think greatest character growth goes to Doctor Strange in most of the MCU movies.
It's such a crazy like plan too to like think about how it works. Like you're gonna go talk to a being that literally eats other universes, and to overcome him, you're bringing in your own like secret weapon. A watch.
Yeah.
That makes you think. He must have not encountered any other universe that had like a time stone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he also says like, Doctor Strange says like, while I am here, like, was this a bluff? Like, he's like, while I'm here keeping you at bay, like, the people on Earth can live. Were they really living, or were they still frozen? Like, didn't he leave them frozen? So was that like a bluff? Like, they're just frozen in time? Like, I guess they're not dead, technically. They're still technically, like, being able to live, but they're not able to do anything. Yeah. So, I don't know. Also, the director took the Eye of Agamotto home with him from set, so... cool tidbit.
Nice.
And Mordo is the villain post credits, and we get Thor Ragnarok reference. I feel like Mordo has the potential to be a cool villain. I really hope they do his character right in Doctor Strange 2, because he really has just dropped off the face of the earth since this movie.
He's stacking up. That's his thing.
Yeah.
So
I hope that he has been just developing. We don't pick up right where we left off, and that's, I think we talked about this, the strength of MCU is like character development happens off screen, so I feel like they need to utilize that.
Yeah. Well, he kind of says it here where he's like, no more sorcerers. So it's just like what his plan is, but like it's gonna be so big, like he has to defeat Doctor Strange, and technically also Wanda, even though she's not a sorcerer, she still is a magic user,
and Wong,
and the bill
don't forget,
and Wong.
I wonder if it's just really interesting. It's really interesting how easily he takes the magic from that guy. I mean, that guy wasn't a sorcerer, so that probably is why it's easier. Like, couldn't defend himself. But also, again, with the storytelling happening off screen, we see that again between this and Infinity War. Like, he has grown so much in power level, and that fight with Thanos is just amazing because it's just like unexpected. But it's like, oh, he's been training, he's been busy, so that's cool. Also at the end of the movie, there's a warning apparently in like the credits that says don't do distracted driving, and I think that's funny. It continues the joke where the warning comes after like the spell that
after
they had
the
like
spell?
in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's funny. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Doctor Strange. I know we kind of rushed there with Dan. We've just been talking a while.
Yeah,
and it's late.
Oh, what did you think of when he was talking to Thor 2, the first post-credit?
I like that he has gloves on.
That's what I was going to say. What do you think of his gloves?
Yeah. They're cool. Use them more.
I think they should bring those back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I really wonder how, speaking of like the comic book shop from earlier, I wonder how much the MCU has like revived comic book sales, because I feel like that was almost like a dying art almost, and I feel like comic appreciation has probably grown a lot because of the MCU.
Oh, it definitely has. It's like in its own renaissance. I'd
Very
say.
niche, yeah.
It's just nice, you know. We're kind of. I feel like we're right now kind of at the end of that renaissance. If I'm being honest.
Really.
We kind of. Well, I'm saying that because of like Endgame, you know, like that was the biggest arc in storytelling that we've had like ever, mainly because of like the spread of the internet and being able to tell stories to like everybody and.
Yeah.
So now it's like you have to top that now, and being able to top that is something that Marvel itself is also having a struggle trying to build up. They're doing a good job getting it like these stepping stones put in, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Spidey.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. Like it's going to take time for them to be able to tell a big arcing story like that with characters like that again.
Right.
Like, that's going to be tough.
You got to build it up again.
Yeah.
So, all right, you ready for the patron shout-outs?
Yeah, hit me with them.
Cue epic Star Wars music. Boosh got patron Lori, Frank, Rick, Lisa, Evan, Tony. Thank you so much for pledging the tier that gets you the shout out. If you want to support us over on Patreon, the link is down in the description. You get audio episodes early, special benefits, cool perks, talk to you guys sometimes. It's really fun. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Seriously, really appreciate it. That's how we're able to do stuff like the giveaways that we did a while ago for when this is recorded, or when this goes out. But yeah, thank you. If you would like to leave a review or a comment, we will shout those out. I actually have a comment here from Johnton R. He said, hello on our latest, at the time of recording, episode. We're going to be a little behind on the comments because of when the order of recording these, but he said hello on our episode with our fandom battles that Julia was on. So thank you. Hello. If you would like to...
General
hello there. I should have commented that back. But yeah, if you want to leave a comment about what power you want to see Doctor Strange use in No Way Home, or what do you think about him? All right, ready for the introduction?
Yep, tell me when.
When?
We just talked about whatever we want to talk about, and now we're done. Blank.
Thank you so much for listening. Seriously, really appreciate it. We will be back soon. Don't know exactly what's next. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.